We should be live probably by now. I
Hello,
don't know. Yeah.
hello, and welcome to Moreness-Culture. Good morning, Syl.
Good morning, Beena. Good
Good
morning.
morning, Green.
Oh,
And I like,
we're not live yet. We're not live yet.
wow, okay.
No. It doesn't say on because on IG it says, there's a little button that says go live,
Hmm.
but I can't click on it.
Okay,
So
we can take
I don't
take
know
your time.
why. Can you see on Facebook if we live? Can you check?
Okay, let me check.
Why? We might be live.
No, nope.
Yeah, we're all live. We're all
Okay,
live. I'm seeing a live. Yeah, we're live,
okay,
but it's
that's
not
good.
live on IG for whatever reason. I don't
Okay, anyway, thank you so much, Syl, and thank you so much, Grain, for being here because it's always good to have the recordings available so we can edit all these glitches. This is how, okay, we don't care much about this, but yes, as a professionalism and professional things, we might need to edit our videos also. But this is how it is and why as sometimes you feel that okay, oh, Basil and Beena were just talking in the middle of and suddenly they just started live and then Sil is laughing and saying something like yes we are live and we are not live, these type of things. Yes, I know that okay, these might feel like a bit unprofessional, but actually you're right, we
They
are not.
live. They live. They're not professional shows, so there's a
Again,
different
this is
criteria that
exact
applies.
this is exactly what I was about to say,
Oh,
that
sorry. I
no, no
preempted you.
problem.
I'm sorry. My
No
bad.
problem.
My bad.
No problem. No problem. This is exactly what I was about to say that yes, you're right. This is not professional. It is organic.
Correct.
It is natural. It is
Yeah.
exactly as raw and fresh as it can be. Because
Right.
I had no idea what I'm going to talk about, like every single day. When Sil says, okay,
No.
yes, we are live, I said, okay, no, we are practicing to be who we really are. Okay, the content and everything. We are doing our shows, TV shows also, like on Bold Brave TV, and you can find us on Spotify, and you can find us on other places also. These shows is YouTube especially. We are doing these shows exactly like this. Yes, a bit because it's a requirement from, and we have a very good help there also, which cue us like, okay, yes, now to start, now to do that. So it's a teamwork. We ourselves, we are not doing anything other than what we are doing here. We're simply going there without having any agenda. Yes, sometimes a topic, and so say, okay, today because it is fun to have a specific topic like we have here, capital R reading of Carlos Castaneda's books about Don Juan. And then
Right.
on those, we just suggest the topic. The content comes organically. I have no idea what I'm going to ask with from Sil and what I'm going to share. And Sil, of course, he just starts sharing. He don't know that okay, what I'm going to ask him and where this whole show will go. But we are doing it. What it shows, first thing, a thorough understanding what we are sharing every single day, a thorough understanding about that. Second thing, no ego nonsense. We can make blunders, we can be wrong, we can be okay, yes, sometimes not getting clarity. Okay, no problem, we are open for that too. Third thing, sharing what we really have trust in. Not only that we understand that, but also we have trust in what we are sharing, that it's been working good for us.
Working
Not
well.
necessarily, yes, this not necessarily it is going to work for you. We don't know, but okay,
Yeah.
we are sharing what we have been trying and testing. The fourth thing is we are practicing communication. We are sharing and are
Absolutely.
and we are sharing and we are actually promoting the
No.
idea of
No.
professionalism in a completely different perspective. We are professionals, we don't need preparation. If you need preparation, you are not ready yet. I always say that think about it twice. Then you will understand what I'm saying. We assume that we are prepared, but we always have to prepare ourselves. Till we need to prepare, we need to rehearse. It means that we are not prepared yet. This is the idea, this is the perspective of moreness, that you have to be
No.
ready. exactly, actually, in reality, in totality, then you don't need any preparation. Okay, the situation is coming, and okay, yes, I know. And also, don't don't share anything which you are not sure about. We are sharing things, our perspective. We are not again an authority here. We are not exercising our authority. But yes, we are sharing our understanding. We are sharing our thoroughness. We are sharing the true understanding and having sharing our trust, what we have been working on. This is the actual practical application of having good communication skills, and also practical application of sharing. We
No.
don't need to prepare. Yes, of course we can get more fluent, we can get more precise, we can get, okay, I'm not saying about Syl now, I'm just including him. But yes, do I have a room to improve? Yes, infinite room. Yes, but right now I'm enough to share. That's it. This is the idea. This is the philosophy behind that. That's why we are doing this like this. So I guess if you see us like, okay, yeah, laughing and chilling about, and suddenly we say, oh, we are live, we are live. Oh no, we are not, we are not. Yes, because we're not doing any editing. We are not doing any preparation, no rehearsal, and we are just doing it organically. Very organic lives you guys are experiencing. So that was my thought of the day. Okay, so let's continue.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, we shall in a moment. I'm just looking to find our place where we were. But actually, I wanted to talk about. We were on disrupting routines, right? The
Yes.
chapter, and I said, well, how do we use this? How do we use this in our practical lives? Okay,
Mm.
and this is a very big topic. It's a big part of way of impeccability, a very big focus. Now, I'm going to suggest a technique, but we first have to understand what that is that the technique is for and not confuse it. This is a technique that is going to be associated with what it is that we want to do. The thing itself is of minor benefit that we're going to do.
Mm.
But, so the technique itself isn't going to do much. But the technique is going to be associated with something else. And that
Mm.
through that association, we are now going to be able to do something. Right?
Okay.
Right. I mean, it sounds a bit mysterious, but it's a
Yes.
two-step process. It's not a direct technique. It's a two-step technique. All right. So we're going to use disrupting routines, the technique
Mm.
of disrupting routines. We are going to use this to remember and be aware,
Oh,
to
wow.
bring
Okay.
us to remember, to be aware. In other words, we're going to use the technique of disrupting routines to 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 trigger us, to cue us, to leverage us, to pull us out of the bubble,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes.
Because if you think about what we're doing in our daily lives, yes, we're going along, la 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 la, and we're all involved in what we're doing, and
Yes.
we forget stuff. We forget to feel in a certain way. We forget to be in a certain way. We forget to
Yes.
hold an attitude. We forget to hold a stance, a posture, a particular face. We forget
Mm-hmm.
our voice. We forget, right? This applies when you're walking also. Right? So those are important things because those face, posture, stance, FPS, like frames per second, but we have it, as face, posture, stance. And also voice and walking. And there's a sixth one, and for the life of me, I can't remember what it is now, but which just boggles my mind. See, we forget stuff sometimes. But all right, never mind that. So these are ways of being. Yes. Uh, how we hold our face, how we hold our stance, how we hold our posture. Because face and posture and stance, think of them not just literally, but figuratively. Yeah. Like you say,
Yes.
the author's voice. We don't mean that they got a croaky voice, because or they smoked and drank too much in their youth, like Ernest Hemingway, and they got this messed up voice, right?
Hmm.
That's not what we mean when we talk about Hemingway's voice. Now, what do we mean? Yeah.
Yes.
We mean his particular ideology, his attitude, his mindset, the way he feels about things, the style in which he does this, right? His voice is, it's a style, but it's more than just a style, because a writer's style and their voice is not the same thing exactly. Right? These are nebulous. They're nebulous things, but nonetheless, they're also very real. Yes. And we know voice too. Like, okay, when you like a mother, right? Kids come and ma this, ma that, ma's carry on. Yeah, all right, yes, no. But then the kids get, stuff goes wrong, and then ma puts on a different voice, and then they know, oh, blah. Okay, well, then all the kids disappear, or they suddenly become good. Right? See, so voice is a very powerful thing, and how we use voice, and our stance, face, posture, and your walk also. These are representations of who you are and how you are. Now we have to get to this point of who we are. Who we are, for the most part, at least before we start on the path of deliberately being who we are. Yeah. So therefore, who we are is a function of assimilated characteristics, and these are inadvertently assimilated. Sometimes they are deliberately assimilated, but for the most part, they are inadvertently assimilated. The very word assimilated implies that it's not a deliberate thing. Yes. And we do learn many things deliberately. We choose deliberately, but for the most part, if you ask people about their beliefs and their ways of being and how they are, where did this come from? Well, I don't know. It's just how I am. It's just how I came to be. No deliberateness involved, right? It was assimilated. Especially if you look at where they say, yeah, but doesn't everybody do that? Or, well, that, I'm doing that because isn't that what one is supposed to do? Isn't
Mm.
that what one is supposed to do? Statements like that is what we are looking to deal with. That's what has been inadvertently assimilated, not chosen. Yeah? Well, why are you doing that? Well, isn't
Mm.
that what everybody does? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? They don't know why. Really, they're just doing it because, well, that's what you're supposed to do or should do. Yeah? Inadvertently assimilated. And sometimes they do stupid things. And it doesn't make any sense. But and then when you bring attention to it, they're like, well, yeah, but I'm just doing it because that's what everybody does. In other words, we can do things that are actually negative and detrimental to the self, but we don't realize it. We're just in this bubble and we just do. Right? Why do we just do? Because of habit and routine.
Yes.
Those things have become habitualized and routinized, and they've just become a default program, like on your computer. You start up your operating system, and these programs load and they run. And did I choose to run these programs? No, they just load, they just run. Right? They're habits and routines. If you think of your computer, what is your computer? But a whole collection of habits and routines. Almost everything it does is some kind of routine. That's what a program is. It's a routine. They even call them programs, right? In coding, you got a routine, and then you nest the routines, and then you nest routines within routines, and that's what programming is: nested routines, right? Beena, you're a
Yes.
programmer. You did coding, all this stuff, right?
Yes.
That's what it
Yes.
is. And a
Exactly.
habit is nothing else but the same thing. So a habit is just a repetitive nested routine. The same thing, really, right? It's a looping, and that's in coding. It's called a loop. Loops over and over. That's what a habit is. Habit is a loop. Okay. So when
Yes.
we understand this is how we are and how we are taught to be, not directly necessarily. Nobody says to you, you have to be a collection of habits and routine. But think about how we are taught via cueing and implication. Yes? Do that.
Yes.
Why? Well, because that's what good people do.
Hmm.
Otherwise, what will people think? How
Oh
often
yeah.
did we hear this?
Oh yes.
Like, and you just do because it doesn't make sense what people will think when you're a kid, but you don't stop and ask because many things that the adults say don't make sense to you as a kid.
Oh,
And you
yes.
realize that you don't know. You realize that you're unaware. So you trust. You trust that when they say do it, you trust that there is an actual good reason for it. You trust that when your parents say do it because otherwise what will people think? You trust that this is a good reason for determining behavior.
Yes.
It's just pure trust, right? So we
Exactly.
build up this database, this programming in us that is based on a blind trust. And we forget, then we end up with a behavior, but the reason for the behavior, it gets lost over time. Because the behavior is what's important, not the reason. And that's a problem. Because
Yes.
we are also taught, don't ask for the reasons, because when you do, you get into trouble. Yeah, but why should what other people think matter? Well, that just is how it is. Don't ask questions. Just listen to me, obey. Don't give me a hard time, whatever. Right? All sorts of reasons. Because it's actually inherently stupid. You're making yourself vulnerable about other people's opinion. Why does it actually matter? There is no answer to this. There could be, say, well, if people think badly about you, you won't be able to get a job, this, blah, blah, blah. Right? I mean, there are some practical reasons for it that do matter. But nonetheless, it's more about status and ego and, having people's approval. Well, I want my own approval. And if I have my own approval, then other people will think I'm okay because I'm okay with who I am. I will set the tone. I will be the one to initiate how they think about me. I won't be a recipient of how they think. See, they won't need to initiate if I'm the one who's in charge of me. This is what independence of being is, right? And having confidence and sobriety and sensibility. Yeah. I determine how people think about me. That's
Yes.
the ideal, correct? Yeah. And if
Yes.
I'm behaving in a manner that, well, I don't really care for his style, but I respect him, that's fine. You don't have to like me. Yeah. But as
Yes.
long as you understand that I'm being sensible. Yeah. Sometimes people don't have the ability to separate style and like from appreciation. They can't do it. If they don't like it, it's bad. Look at how people review subjective material. Right? I didn't like it. 1 star. That's not a review. That's an opinion. We weren't asked for your opinion to review the book. You were asked to give a review. Yeah.
Yes.
Is it a good book? Well, yeah, it's well written. It's a good book. There's nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't like it. Well, then don't give it 1 star. Okay? People don't understand this. They think their opinions determine the worth and the value of something. And rightly so, because isn't that what we were taught with well, what will people think of you? Yeah? Opinion does not determine worth and value. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of turnips, but that doesn't mean they don't have any value, or lentils, or cabbage, or cauliflower. I don't know. I don't know. I'm dubious about the value of some of these things, but all right, that's me. They have value to
In short,
somebody,
in short,
right?
in short, in short, all the vegetables except tomatoes and
True.
onion.
I like carrots too. Gem squash. I eat
Okay.
gem squash. Potatoes. Potato a vegetable.
Yes.
I love potatoes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, go French fries. I actually eat, I actually eat very few French fries, but I do love potatoes. I like baked potatoes. All right. Anyway, we get back to our point. So now we're getting back to this where we are going about disrupting routines. I'm making this very, very clear point here that our personalities and our characters. I rather want to say how we are, our being. This is a better term here than character or personality. Our being, yeah. Our being is an agglomeration of routines and habits, of inadvertently assimilated habits and routines. They aren't deliberately instituted. So in other words, we are the something that just kind of comes about. It's like our computer. We didn't write the operating program, right? We use Mac or Windows, or I don't know what. There's a couple of other ones too, Linux or whatever, right? We use these, but somebody else created that. Now you can customize your computer to have it set up the way you want to if you really get into this, and you're working with the basics of the operating system, and you can still make the computer work the way you want it to mostly. But we have limited skills for doing it with a computer. Likewise, we have limited skills for doing so with ourselves. However, in the computer, you can learn to code. You can learn to change the code of the operating system. They don't always allow you to have that direct access, but they are open access things, like Linux, I believe it's like that. You can go in and change the code if you want to. Okay? I mean, it's very dangerous to do with like Windows because code is very dependent. You change one bit of code here, and then it affects something else, and you get random effects, right?
Yes.
So we have to understand this, but it can be done. It can be done. Now, do I need to do it with my computer? No. Do I tolerate that my computer is not as ideal as I want it to be? Yes. Why? Because it's convenient, effort reward. But do I tolerate this with myself? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There's no way that I want myself to be the equivalent of Windows. No way. No way. Right? Windows is an aggregate. It is geared towards satisfying the average. Is this what I want in myself? Hell no. I have my own desires, my own likes. I don't use my computer averagely. I don't live averagely either. If I did, okay, I'd be okay, happy to accept average. But even so, when you look at Windows, it has lots of flaws and bugs and all sorts of issues in it, right? Because it's trying to do a lot of things that, well, do I always use those things? No. Yeah, I don't use all of the stuff. And some of the stuff that they design, I'm like, okay, take sticky notes. Take sticky notes. Very simple part of Windows, right?
Yes.
Every single time I open up sticky notes, they come differently on my screen. I basically I only use 2 now. I used to have 6 at one time, or 8 of them, different categories. I use it very extensively, right? And I save stuff, and it was very convenient for me. But every time I'd open the position where I had the sticky note, it's now in a different place. It's a different size. Sometimes they come a little small like this. Sometimes they come full screen almost. And they change the order. Does this make any sense whatsoever?
Yep.
It's like literally if I put those sticky notes on my computer, the paper ones with the glue, and I stick it on my monitor, which is where this thing originated, right? So how come they call it sticky notes? People had sticky notes on their computers. Imagine if every time you came to work and the night staff that came, the janitorial staff, right, cleaning this thing, they rearranged all your sticky notes. Not only did they rearrange the position of your sticky notes, but they changed the size of your sticky notes. You'd be horrified. You'd be incensed. You'd be outraged. Right?
Yeah. Yes.
Mess up your thing. I mean, yeah, okay, all the information is still there, but okay, the phone numbers for this, it's over there. I look there. So a computer, it's something that, because it's habitualized and routine, you would imagine that, well, the stuff opens the same way. Like, for instance, when you have different windows and it saves the screen size and position of your windows, right? At least the Windows operating system does that, right? Like my browser windows, I open them up, okay, they all open the same. All right, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, it's a dirt. At one time they did not, Beena. It's a relatively recent addition, this, where it saved the location of your windows. Every time you open up, you would have to reposition the windows, and it was a big pain. My point is that, oh yeah, but it's still not with sticky notes. They haven't fixed this. It is a simple thing, which they can do, but they don't. Because they did it with browser windows and with other program windows, right? open. You have a setting in your setting somewhere. Open windows in the same position or retain size and position. It's a setting that you check off there, right? You can undo it if you want to, but not for sticky notes apparently. At least not that I've seen anyway. At least the default is random. It just blows my mind. Anyway, I'm making the point that operating systems are complex, and you would think, because there's a lot of money, a lot of programming, you would think such simple, trivial things would be resolved, but no, they aren't. Yeah? So therefore, to me, I'm just saying, don't put your trust in things that are designed by others because they don't work the way you want them to. Yeah, and I mean, some of the choices stylistically that people do. Well, I give an example. Just that there's no real thing to it. But when I open WhatsApp on my computer, on the top right-hand screen where the minimize, maximize, and close window icons are, right? I don't see those. I have to actually move my mouse there, and then when my cursor, I mean, when it's there, then it highlights and it shows me where it is. Which means I have to go and find those things, and they're only there when I need them to be. Why? I don't know who decided that this was a better idea than having it fixed sitting there all the time. For me, it's actually bothersome because it takes me just that little bit slower to actually minimize the window when I have to. I have to move my mouse and then kind of scroll it to find it. And it's just that little bit, tiny bit of extra hassle. Yeah. It's just a pure stylistic choice that somebody, they like this better. I don't like it better. I mean, I have a practical reason why it takes me just that fraction of a second longer. And when you add up those fractions of a second, it takes a lot of time. I pay attention to time. In this case, it's very little, but there are other things which it takes. You have to maybe say 2 or 3 extra clicks. Well, so what? How long does a click take you? Do it 100 times? Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. I think all programmers should be forced to do their things 1,000 times. Whatever you set up, do it 1,000 times in succession, and then see if you're very quickly going to find more efficient, more effective ways of doing it. Yeah. Now, so time and efficiency, it's not a premium in programming, which is quite fascinating. And likewise, it's not a premium in how we set ourselves up. We set ourselves up basically to, well, it works once, okay, once or twice, and that's it. We don't care. So we have very inefficient ways of being, inefficient programs. Right. But that's sort of another story. But I want to get back to this idea that we are like the computer. I'm making all these points to show out that there are a lot of similarities between us and the computers. I mean, the amount of similarities are incredible, right? But psychologically, very identical, very much so. Your brain, it loads a program, it holds it in RAM, which is, short-term memory or short-term awareness, consciousness, right? Which is different to short-term memory, which is like, I think I forget what they call it now. Yeah, it's RAM, but, it's a combination, right? The computer and consciousness is not quite exactly the same, but it's very close. You have long-term memory, you have like your bus and all the stuff, right? A lot of stuff that affects it. Very similar. It's quite fascinating how similar it is. But we want to understand that how we are, what constitutes our beingness. Yeah. When I say I am, this is an accumulation of all of these inadvertently assimilated programs and some deliberately created. Yeah. But for the most part, we are running like our computer stuff's running in the background and we have no idea of it. And it takes a lot of energy. Yeah. We do things by rote. We do things automatically. We do things out of habit and routine. Now, we want to learn to live deliberately. Yes, Beena?
Yes.
Right? This is our goal. This is where we are heading now. Right? To come back to my starting point. I made this very clear about the personality, the character, and I've lumped those two together. Or not lumped, but I've taken a bigger term, our beingness, which is more than our personality and our character, our beingness, uh, how we are. And we want to say how we are. We want to learn to be deliberately, not to have this be an inadvertent thing, right? Like our computer. We load it and it's just how it comes and don't have much control over it, right? Very little customization options. We think we customize like our computer, but you customize the computer, you're still running Windows or whatever operating system underneath. It's not truly custom, correct? You're still following the basic design principles, the basic logic understanding of how to use things. There's a lot of choices that go into an operating system which you're forced to live with, right? You don't get to choose, you don't get to optimize.
Yes.
Even though you get choices, still don't get to choose. All right. Anyway, but we want to be able to choose. Now, when we understand habits and routines, you say, yeah, but don't they save me energy? They kind of do, but they also, in the end, in the overall, they also waste your energy. Why? Because it's energy that goes into doing things. It saves you energy in the actual doing of it. But when you are doing things mindlessly, there's no joy. There's no deliberateness. Let me repeat that. When you are doing things mindlessly, it may save you energy, yes, but it's expensive energy because that energy isn't being utilized for joy. When you're doing things deliberately, you may use more energy in total, but it's a more effectively used energy. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So let's take driving. Yeah, or working on a. Let's take a different example, Rod. Working on a production line. Yeah. So
Yes.
people kind of zoom out, they tune out, and they learn to do things automatically, and they're basically not conscious, they're not aware. They're somewhere else while they're working on the production line. Why? Because it's boring otherwise, at least so they believe. Yeah? So they say, yeah, but my routines, my habits, I'm doing things automatically, I do it without thinking. This saves me a lot of energy. Yeah. But you're going through your whole day, at least 8 hours, standing there on the production line without joy. Basically, you're in a numb state, no experience, right? Is that you're still spending some energy because when you get home, you're still tired. It's not like you're fresh when you get home. Yeah. So now you say, yeah, all right, well, I'm making money, so I'm happy to do that. So you're satisfying your objective, but you're not satisfying. And why are you making money? Because that makes you happy. Yeah. So you make yourself unhappy to be happy. All right. You say, well, I don't really have a choice. I don't know what else to do. Well, can't you learn to be happy doing what makes you money? Well, yeah, well, I'd like to be a professional, sports player or whatever. A lot of things I'd like to do, but I'm not able to do that. So I have to do this. Well, can't you learn to like what you have to do? Yes, you can. You can learn to like doing the things on the production line very deliberately. Yes. It's an extreme example, but it is possible. And this is where we want to get to. We want to have the ability to change our mood, to be able to like what we need to do. So we want to merge want and like. Right. I'm going very, very extreme. Maybe I should have used a less extreme example, but this is the end point. You say, wow, if I had that ability, that would be really powerful. Yes, it is. If you had the ability to be able to, well, when I have to go and work on the production line, I'm going to have the ability to be able to enjoy it. Wow. That would be really a superpower. That would be incredible. Would it not be, Beena?
Yes.
If you can actually go and what everybody else finds boring, you can be just as an act of will, as an act of choice.
This is what we
you
are
will
doing.
be able to enjoy. Wow, now that's a superpower. Yes, I know it's what we're doing. I'm getting to how we get there.
Yes.
And the technique of disrupting routines and how we use this. All right, so now we say, you know what, there's a lot of things that I want to do, but I just forget. I get caught up in a bubble and my awareness goes, and then it's like, man, I just forgot to do that. I forgot to stay aware. I forgot to remain conscious. I forgot to remain deliberate. That is the biggest problem that we face with learning and growing. That we fall into bubbles and we lose our awareness, right?
Yes.
We lose our awareness. We do things, and the thing itself, it cues us to do it as a routine, and the moment you fall into the routine, there goes your awareness, right? And if you listen really carefully, listen for that sound. So the sound it makes, just like that. Okay? Listen for that sound. You'll hear it. Say, yeah, but I lost my awareness. Well, that's why you didn't hear it, because you lost your awareness. So be very clever.
Yes.
All right. I'm having a bit of fun with the sound, but it makes a point that when you lose your awareness, you lose the awareness of wanting to remain aware. Problem. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Now, the brain is a very peculiar instrument. We would think, much like our computer, we think our computer is very logical and sensible. We take it for granted. Yeah?
Yes.
But is my computer logical and sensible? I gave an example earlier.
Yes.
No, it's not. When it comes to sticky notes, explain the logic to this to me, please. It's a bug. All right. If my computer is a bug, well, if I have a bug in my brain, if I have a really severe bug, like my brain damage, then I might have to go and get that repaired. Yeah.
Yes.
Bugs make us not to be logical and not sensible and not rational and lose our sobriety. And just as we assume the computer is all good, we assume the same with us. Now we get hardware bugs, we get software bugs. Yeah. And we all know about the software bugs, but we don't even think of them as bugs. Being annoyed, you think being annoyed is a result of a bug. Oh, well, it's natural to get annoyed. No, it's not. Your computer does not get annoyed at you. It has to be taught to be annoyed at you. Same with your AI. Right? You can teach your AI if you want to be annoyed with you. My AI is never annoyed at me. Whatever I do, my AI thinks it's wonderful. I'm always fantastic according to my AI. But look at the default. The people who program the AI, they subscribe to superiority paradigm and insecurity and flattery, and they think, oh, this is what's going to make our AI popular, because it's always flattering people and telling them they're wonderful and all this. It probably works on most people, because people can be very shallow when it comes to stuff like that. I'm like, I want to train my AI to give me accurate feedback and not tell me, oh, you're so wonderful. That doesn't help me. I want objective feedback. I don't need the flattery all the time. It just wastes my time. I have to read this all the time. It's like, oh, God, here we go with this nonsense. It's a bit lame after a while. Oh, very quickly for me. All right. Anyway, I'm making the point still about our behavior and awareness. So now we say, okay, I've become aware that I lose my awareness. I lose my consciousness. I lose my deliberateness. How can I remedy this? How can I rectify this? What can I do to change this? Okay. Let's tackle it at the very base level. When are you doing things without awareness? Just take the things you do in your daily life, right? Well, you do it when you get into your daily routines, or anything. It's not necessarily a daily routine, but anything that's become routinized or habitualized. Right? Can you give me a few examples, please, Beena?
A lot, like, okay, everything in our life.
Yeah, but just give me a few. Just give me a few random examples. Just give me a few.
Okay, like.
Yeah, for instance.
Just having your tea at a specific time. That's it.
Right. Well, not only that, but how do you have your tea? Also, I'm thinking also things like brushing your hair. Okay,
yes.
somebody will say, so I don't think that applies to you, but I was asking Beena. I wasn't asking me. Okay? We have to have some fun with ourselves, right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Combing your hair then. Well, right, Eva.
Oh,
But a
yes,
lot of these
okay.
things, right,
Yes,
when you
combing your
do,
hair,
yeah,
the way you wake up in the morning. Okay, yes.
yeah,
So,
right.
a lot
Many
of things,
things,
right?
your morning routine, how you eat, how you chew your food. You don't think of exactly how you chew your food. Just do it, right? All right. So I'm using here, I have in my hand an awareness leveraging tool. There are many of them, but this is a very useful one, very particular. It's good. Okay. Now, all right. Uh, when you stir something, particularly your tea or your coffee, I know some people now, I know don't need to stir their tea and their coffee anymore because they don't put sugar in it anymore or creamer. It's just black, so they don't have to stir. Yeah?
Mm.
Right? However,
Yeah.
when you did stir, Beena, but you may stir other things, right?
Yes.
Oh, right. When you stir, what do? You pick up the spoon and you stir, right?
Yes. Oh,
Now, I just want to ask you, just as a little point of interest, we're going to go aside here a little bit, right? When you stir and you put the spoon in, how do you hold the spoon?
oh yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. With thumb and two fingers. This is how I feel.
right. Well, I mean, you put your on the back here, you put your thumb on this side, right?
Yes.
Right, and essentially you have the hollow side,
Yes.
the concave. This is concave, and this is convex. The
Yes.
way to remember it is that concave, it's like a cave. It goes in.
Yes. Yes.
Convex is bulging out, right? Like when you vex and your eyes are bulging. Mnemonic devices. I'm just having some fun, but okay. So my point is, when you put that spoon in, you always do it the same way, and you stir. And typically, you
Yes.
stir the same way. Yes,
Yes.
that's it. I mean, people have a default. If you watch them, and then they stir. Sometimes they stir clockwise, but they're always the same way.
Yes.
I want to ask you: does it matter to your tea or your coffee when you're stirring it if you stir clockwise or anti-clockwise?
No.
No, I mean, I don't mean matter to the tea itself, like personality of the tea. I don't mean that. Tea doesn't have that. So, I mean, to the end result, right? Uh, the sugar gets stirred the same way. Whether you go clockwise or anti-clockwise makes no difference, correct?
Yes.
As a matter of fact, from an effectiveness point of view, stirring is less effective than agitating. If you want to get really scientific and technical about it, if you stir, it takes a long time for the sugar to dissolve. But if you stir a cup and then you stir backward, in other words, to agitate, then the sugar dissolves a lot quicker. All right, but that's a separate issue now. My point is, clockwise, anti-clockwise makes no difference. Yeah. Now I want to
Yes.
ask you another thing. When you put that spoon in, if you turned it around and you stirred, whether
Mm.
clockwise or anti-clockwise, is that going to make any difference to the stirring? Which way
Say it
you put
again.
the spoon in? All
Say
right,
it
so
again.
so typically we hold the spoon, you put the thumb on the hollow
Yes.
side. Right? What if you turn it around and you put the forefinger on the hollow side? You hold the spoon the other way around and stir.
Yes.
Does that make is that going to change the stirring in any way?
No.
No, because when you're stirring, whether you go one way or the other way, it makes no difference. The stirring end result is exactly the same. Okay? All right, now you can stir back and forward. You can stir like this, right? Kind of, loop it around. If you watch people in the kitchen, you'll see sometimes like beating. Yes, beating is a different
Yes.
action, but you can stir your coffee that way too. You don't have to go just round and round and boring in the same circle. I've got thousands of ways, or hundreds of ways, or dozens of ways of stirring my coffee. Why? Because I've utilized this as a technique for leveraging my awareness. Now, we want to disrupt our routines. This is one habit, to do things deliberately. But
Mm.
to stir your coffee deliberately in and of itself does not have a very big benefit. You say, yeah, so what? I'm stirring my coffee. I'm busy figuring out my report, what I'm going to say to my boss, whatever, right?
Yes.
Is it really worth my effort to be deliberate about this? in and of itself? No. This is my point. We are going to set an intent to disrupt our routines, like stirring our coffee, which way you put your belt on, how you comb your hair, whatever, right? Which things you, or anything that you do routinized. We'll just use stirring your coffee or tea, or combing your hair or stuff like that as an example, instead of making a long list every time. We are going to disrupt those routines, not because disrupting the way I stir my coffee or my tea makes any difference whatsoever. It doesn't. But I'm going to associate it and link it to something that does make a difference, right? So when I get to my coffee, la 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 la, coffee, and I go, and in the moment I start stirring, my brain goes elsewhere. Yeah.
Yes.
Or I'm not even aware that I'm stirring. I'm just stirring. I'm doing something inadvertently. But we say, oh, we've come to realize that disrupting routines is very important, because if you're just automatically doing things mindlessly, that makes you prey in Don Juan's world. Yeah. Now, we say, yeah, but I don't have lions, mountain lions walking around, or tigers or whatever stuff that's going to eat me, bears, whatever, right? Orcas. I don't live in the ocean. I don't have to worry about stuff like this. So I don't have to worry about being physical prey. Yeah, but we said it makes us prey for other things too. It makes us prey to unawareness. If ever there was a ridiculously awesome predator, it was this predator called unawareness. Yeah. Makes me prey to habit, makes me prey to routine. It makes me prey to undeliberateness. It therefore also makes me prey to inadvertency. It makes me prey to assimilation. How many things didn't you absorb in your life that later on you say, where did this rubbish come from? I've become aware that I think this way, I believe this way, I act this way, I behave this way. And where did it come from? I didn't choose it. I wasn't taught it deliberately. I wasn't taught it specifically. I just assimilated it. It just kind of happened. Why? Because you were unaware. And you had routines and you had habits, and the stuff just came into you. You had the habit of assimilating because you weren't living deliberately. If you are not living deliberately, you have to assimilate in order to survive, in order to learn and grow and fit in and function in society. If you don't assimilate doing things, you just out. You just don't work in society, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So they make us function, but at a price. Functioning undeliberately, yes, it means you lose your joy because you're not living deliberately. Right? Deliberateness and joy go together. You might say, well, there are people that are happy and they're not being deliberate. How many of them do you know?
Say it again, please.
I say, somebody may object and say, yeah, Syl, you are equating deliberateness with joy. Yeah, I'm not saying it has to always be something. That's not 100% correlation. You can be joyful and be undeliberate, right? Because but there are people who don't go about living deliberately, and they're very joyful. I'll say, yeah, okay. How many of them do you know? And then they're like, yeah. Look around you. Yes, we may have met people like that. Yeah, but then again, we don't know. We don't know if this is how they always are, or if they were just being that way in that moment. Yes. Furthermore, yes, and you say, yeah, but take like, I don't know, mentally challenged people or whatever. They're always happy and they're deliberate. Change the conditions for those people and see where their joy goes. Their joy is very, very, very fragile. Yeah. If you've ever worked with people like that and things aren't right, that bubble that need to have the joy, the circumstances, the environment, the conditions, they break down. They get very upset. They get very unhappy. They freak out, essentially. Okay? So the point is, they can be automatically joyful, just in their bubble, but it's dependent on conditions. So that's not very ideal, because we aren't always in a situation where we can get conditions to be set up this way. I actually have in my life been very fortunate to be able to spend considerable time with people that are mentally challenged, right? And I was fortunate to be able to kind of study them to a certain extent and observe them also in out in the wild, as it were, right? Like when the flea market is to come around, the stores is to come around, right? And we would always we treat them just like everybody else. So the people that brought the group like to bring them to our stand, because they didn't get treated weirdly or differently, right? And they would buy stuff as well and all this, right? So you get to see them in a little bit different way of behaving. And some of them could be very cunning, yes. And also you started to see, wait a second, there's a deliberateness involved here. They don't want to be other than what they are, because they wouldn't then get taken care of. They were quite capable. Of making decisions and being very shrewd. Yeah. Which, wow, okay, if you're so capable of bargaining and all of this, why can't you do a job? Oh, I don't want to do a job. I like to be taken care of. There's a lot of deliberateness involved. Oh yeah. Yeah. Now, it's not that conscious. It's a deeper thing, right? But the moment you change the conditions and say, oh, you got to do this, then they freak out. They absolutely refuse. They basically get stuck on a baby level. Yeah. It's quite fascinating. Anyway, I'm making the point that, yes, we say, oh, a lot of these people are so happy. Yeah, but they're happy in very specific conditions. Change the conditions and they're very miserable. Yeah? I suspect there are places in the world where people like that don't get looked after, and well, you got to work like everybody else. There's no allowance made for you, and I guarantee you, those people are not happy. Not the way they are when they're getting looked after, right? Yeah. So anyway, my point is, yes, there is a potential to be happy by not being deliberate, but it's vulnerable. Yeah, very vulnerable. All right. So therefore we say, okay, well, look at when generally when we are happy. We are happy when conditions favor us, or when we deliberately are engaged in an activity of our choice, right? When we are playing games, or we're going to a concert, we're doing something that we want to do. We've chosen the environment. Yeah?
Yes.
Right. So most of our happiness comes from an association with an environment. Yeah? But we haven't really realized that, oh, we can deliberately learn to choose our moods. Yeah? We're getting there. Now, so all of this I'm making the point about the value of deliberateness. Yeah?
Yes.
And how it is connected to being alive. Yes? And that's why people say when their lives are under threat, right? That's, man, I felt so alive. Yeah, because you were living deliberately. Everything you did was being deliberate, because, well, you know what? If you weren't deliberate, then the lion was going to eat you, or you were going to get shot, or whatever. So a lot of people, to them, this is a very big realization. That they say, like, oh my God, yes, it was terrible, but at the same time, I felt so alive, and they can get hooked onto that fear, that adrenaline, right? And they don't realize that, and they call them adrenaline junkies. They don't realize it's the deliberateness that makes the difference, not necessarily the adrenaline. Yes, the adrenaline does too, but part of the greatness of that is the deliberateness, right? You are deliberately choosing your every action. Every action matters. It's deliberate, right? All right. Now we want to break our routines to get us out of this mindless living where we're just doing all things always. Spirokan. You're basically like a zombie. You are asleep. Yeah. The problem with that is not the issue in and of itself. I don't stir your coffee and be thinking elsewhere. In and of itself is not negative. It is the habit that takes you from not choosing to do this. That's the problem. Why? Because you are going into a bubble of unawareness without choice. That's the issue. All right, so let's be clear what the issue is with routines and habits. They pull you into a bubble of unawareness without you choosing to do so. Yeah?
Yes.
Now, that unawareness, you could say, yeah, but I'm not completely unaware when I'm stirring my coffee. I'm busy thinking about something quite deliberately. Yes, but you're unaware of stirring the coffee. It's still a bubble, right? You may have chosen something deliberate, but it's still a bubble, right? You've still lost some connectivity to your surroundings. Yeah?
Yes.
Right? Okay. So I mean, it's on a scale here. It's not so black and white. Obviously, it's partially this and partially that. But nonetheless, this is typically what habits do us. They put us into a bubble where we limit our awareness to a certain degree. Yeah? And we forget things. We forget stuff that we want to remember. We forget, for instance, ways of being. Right? This is the problem with those bubbles of awareness. Now, how do we use our trivial routines like stirring and brushing our hair or combing our hair or not, as the case may be? How do we use these to leverage our ability to be more deliberate? Here's how. Right? So all my long story comes to this. Start with changing your routine. Right? Just like your spoon. Just start by holding it differently. Yes? Stir with your left hand. Yeah, stir with your left hand this way. Stir with your left hand that way. Every time you stir your coffee, do it differently. Why? Because when you set up this as a routine, you're setting up a routine to be random. You're setting up a routine to be different. But here's the key to it. You have to associate it with being aware. It's no good learning to do a routine and you go into your bubble again and you lose your awareness and fine, you're doing it differently every time, but you're still elsewhere. You need to associate these routines with being deliberate. By changing them, by setting up an intent to do it differently, right? Initially, you're going to find that you're quite deliberate in doing it differently. And you may have to pay a bit of attention to stir with your left hand. You're not used to doing it, right? I do. I am. It's not a problem. I stir left hand, right hand. Okay. Practice this. But it's about remaining deliberate. So now, the changing of the routine is not the issue. It is what is associated with this. In that moment when you change the routine, associated with remembering, what is it that I want to remember? What is it that I want to be aware of? I want to be aware and be deliberate about what? Choosing my moods. Let's just start with that. I want to be aware of remaining aware. If I'm remaining aware, if I'm remaining deliberate, I can choose my moods. I can choose what I'm doing. I can make conscious, deliberate choices, not go through life just based on reacting to life. Yes, I can choose life. Most people go through life reacting. No, we want to choose. Yeah, not even respond. We want to be choosing, want to be initiating. So now when you're changing the routine of how you stir your coffee, it is associated with being aware. So every time I come to my coffee, that's right. You know what? I've forgotten all about what it is that I wanted to be aware of. Let's say you want to work on something specific, yeah, some particular aspect. Okay, I want to learn to be more patient. I want to learn to hear the sounds of the world. Let's just take that one, since this was a recommendation from Don Juan, right? I forgot all about that. I had all this wonderful intent when we were reading about it, but then I completely forgot about it. And the next day, that was gone again. See? So now you've taken this and this technique of whatever routine you are changing. It's quite easy to do, actually. It's very interesting, right? When you decide to change your routines, every time you come, oh yes, that's right, I want to change my routines. That's a new habit that's quite quick to learn. But the secret that we're going to do, we're going to be very sophisticated. We're going to associate this with remembering to be aware. And the moment I start changing my routine, right, what was it? And now you don't even think, it's not even a two-step process, it's automatic because it was associated. You set it up that way from the start. The moment I start stirring my coffee or tea differently, I remember, yes, that's right. What is it that I want to be aware of? What do I want to remember to do? And now it comes. Oh, yes, I wanted to remember to be aware. I want to remember to listen to the sounds of the world. I wanted to remember to feel the space around. Yes. I wanted to remember to be deliberate, and etc. etc. In other words, we are now using this as a gateway technique to being deliberately, consciously aware. And the moment we are deliberately, consciously aware, we can be aware of what we want to be aware of. Yeah?
Yes.
All those intents that we set up, the intent to like listen to the sounds of the world, we set it up and it's a great idea and it's wonderful and we love it and we see the sense of it and it makes sense and it is good and we have clarity of intent. But it goes away. We forget about it. Why don't we do it all the time? Because we get pulled into bubbles of awareness. Yeah? We have to train ourselves to be constantly aware. Yeah, we have to train ourselves. And the gateway technique is the things that we have, that we do inadvertently, that we do without thinking. We are going to do these deliberately, but not for the technique itself. It really doesn't matter which way I stir my coffee, but it helps me as a technique when I do that to pop me out of my bubble. Right? So we're going to use anything that you're doing as a routine. Because you're doing it now differently, it pops you out of the bubble. And you pop into a bubble of being deliberately aware and remembering what it is that you want to remain aware of. Oh yes, I want to remain aware about choosing my mood. I want to remain aware of my posture, my face, my stance, my walk, my voice. There are tons of things that we want to remain aware of. Yeah.
Yes.
And there are tons of things that initially you it takes a lot of energy initially, but then it becomes simpler when you've learned it and it's easier and you can, like for instance, changing your voice or changing your stance, your posture. Initially, it may be hard to remember to do it, but when you do it, it becomes easier. Like playing an instrument, right? Initially, you have to go slowly and deliberately, clang, 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 pling plong, whatever. And then the easier you play, right? Becomes easier as you do it. And likewise, the same applies with character traits, character abilities, ways of being. Ways of being is very, very crucial. Ways of being is like the secret to everything. Look at all of art. All of art is about showing you alternative ways of being. All of it. That's what it's all about. Even the rose behind me. Yes?
Yes.
We don't care about the rose, but the art part is showing a way of being which is an abstract perspective. Yes? It's showing you a way of being which is an attention to beauty. Do we go around paying attention to beauty as a way of being, as part of our doing in life? No, most of the time we're going around looking for how we can be clever, how we can look important. We're not going around looking for beauty. See? Default habits, default patterns. When we look at our patterns of behavior physically and say, oh my God, what am I doing psychologically as a pattern, as a habit? Now we start to breaking the physical patterns, but we're associating it with breaking psychological patterns. Yeah. And those patterns, the worst ones, are the pattern of being unaware. Once we can break that pattern and we start living deliberately, now we can start instituting deliberate patterns, like paying deliberately, having this a pattern. I want to, on a daily basis, always be paying attention to beauty, noticing it, finding it. This is what Moreness is all about. Beauty is just part of Moreness. Yeah? When you start training your brain to have the routine, to pay attention to Moreness, to notice Moreness, to connect to Moreness, life is easy after that, right? Your life is transformed.
Yes.
We get stuck in this bubble of unawareness, and what have you trained yourself to do? You've trained yourself basically to be in a state of being which is a lessness state, which is an unaware state. Yeah? Because, well, to be aware of stuff is a hassle and it's boring and it's painful, because that's the view we have of the world, that the world is not a fun place in general. Right? It's boring and whatever. What a horrible worldview. We have to change this. We have to change this, right? And we are going to do so by associating. This is the technique for changing your routines. It is not about changing the physical routine. They don't really matter. It is about changing the association. It's what happens when you do that automatic routine. What happens is your brain is going into automatic kind of unaware mode, automatic non-deliberate mode. That's what we're looking to change. So we're going to deliberately change our routines, stir differently, hold the teaspoon differently, whatever, right? Stir with the other hand. Once you start on stirring, we're gonna be quite fascinated at how many different ways you're gonna find to stir things. But it's not about stirring. It is about the association. So every time I change my routine, very easy to do, I am associating and I'm going to be, oh yes. It was about being deliberate. It's about being aware. And you zoom out. You go from your bubble, which you were inside yourself in some bubble there, right? Paying attention to all the shadow thoughts, to, I feel the world around me. I notice the world around me. I see what people are thinking, doing, how they're behaving. I'm aware of their psychologies, etc. If I'm in a situation with people, I see which way they're moving. I see their intents. So much stuff to be aware of. So much stuff to take fun in. But that's quite valuable. It's quite useful. Oh, wow. And suddenly, I've gone from being a drone in life to being deliberate. If you're a scientist, and you're observing your lab rats, your bees, your ants, whatever. Yeah, with rats you get this, or as you go up, it's maybe very hard to see in ants and bees, but occasionally we do see it even there. Yeah? If you're watching those, the moment you see one of them behave out of pattern and start doing things a bit unusually, and especially if you start to see them behave deliberately, we pay attention. Wow. Yeah. Look at all the videos that you see on reels and shorts and all these little clips, right? About animal behavior. What do we pay attention to? We pay attention to, especially when the animals start behaving deliberately.
Yes.
Then we pay attention. This is something special now. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Do the same for yourself. Learn to be able to behave deliberately. It changes you, right? And all right, leverage your ego. You want to be special. Learn to behave deliberately, and you're going to be special. You might find once you learn to behave deliberately, you say, well, being special doesn't really matter. Deliberate is more important. Yes, you are. But since you're still caught up in the motivation of special, use that motivation to get you out of it. Yeah.
Yes.
Quite fascinating how we can use something against itself. This is from sailing. Yeah. I don't know. I did a lot of sailing, and the sailing is so valuable in an abstract way, because the wind is blowing against me, and I can use that wind to sail towards the wind. How does that work? How do I use a force that's coming against me to go against it? It's fascinating. Isn't that incredible? It blows my mind. It's complete and utter magic, but it can be done, right?
Yes.
Quite fascinating. So we can use the forces that are against us to go against the force that is against us. Yeah, we can do that. Quite incredible. So we are going to use these forces. We are going to use inadvertency to make us deliberate. Again, learning to change our routine, set the intent. Okay, from now on, I'm going to do all my unaware routines, my daily simple things. I'm going to do them differently. Doesn't matter what I'm going to do, how I chop the carrots. Okay, I'm going to do it differently. I absolutely, if you really want to take this seriously, I recommend switching from being right-handed to being left-handed. It takes about 2 weeks for this to start to become. You will never get the same proficiency. When I stir my coffee with the left hand, even now, I've been doing this for a long time, it's not quite as fluid as the right hand. Right? Well, also my left hand's a bit numb and it's lost some sensation, which is, it hasn't helped matters very much, right? But still, right? It's about being deliberate. I still do it though, even though it's less efficient. Why? Because of the benefits of being deliberate. I have to pay more attention when I do it with my left hand, which I want. Why? Because I've got it associated with being more aware. So it's not about the habit, the trivial routine. It's about the mental habit. When I do it and I do it differently, I'm being deliberate. Now, after a while, I started stirring my coffee. I found, oh, I'm stirring on my left hand. Oh, I've fallen into a routine again. And because I had this big association, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get into bubbles of unawareness and undeliberateness. What do I want to remember? What do I want to remain aware of? Yes. And we can develop other routines. Mnemonic, like for instance, just what am I doing? Yeah. Just ask yourself in the day, just set this up as a pattern. Right? You working, la 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 la. Can you hear me tapping on my keyboard? Working very hard.
Nope.
You can hear?
Nope.
You can't hear it?
Nope.
How about now? Oh, the mic is not over here. The mic's up there. Well, okay. So the filter on the microphone, it filters out nonsense noise. So it filtered out all my horrible clacking that I was making on the computer there. But the point I want to make is that, when we get pulled into stuff, we want to remain aware. Yes. And the more you remain aware, you can find when you start thinking conceptually, no matter what you do, there's always things you can do deliberately that enhance you, that give you power. Right? I can learn to be deliberate. I can learn to be patient. I can learn to be pay attention. I can learn to mood manage. I can learn to choose. Yes. So many things. I can learn to multitask. I can learn to think of complex things while doing other things. Many, many, many things. There's a moreness to all of this, but we want to use that as a leverage to remember, what am I doing? What am I trying to do? How am I looking to improve? What am I looking to replace? Not what am I looking to fix, because you can't fix things. We were talking about this earlier. Yeah, you can't fix things. You can't fix a negative by a negative. In other words, if I'm got something I'm unhappy about in myself, okay, I'm unhappy, and I say, well, I don't like being unhappy. I'm unhappy about being unhappy. That's the first problem, right? When we're unhappy, we go along and we're unhappy, and sometimes we're not even aware that we're unhappy. We're just in that state of experiencing the unhappiness, and it just perpetuates because there's no deliberateness involved. We just accept it, and we just keep on going. See how powerful unawareness is. How is it that you're in a state of unhappiness and you don't make any effort to change this? Because you're not aware enough. You just accept it. Your brain is trained to just accept. Yeah. But I've done this with people. They're going along and they're obviously, well, life, whatever. They're unhappy with whatever the situation is. And you say, well, do you have to feel this way about it? And then, well, obviously, no, not really. Of course, they always squirm to say, because then they don't want to acknowledge that they don't have to, because then they're going to feel stupid because they've been doing it. But they were just unaware. Now, the problem is when we have habits and tendencies that make us unhappy. Like, for instance, let's say you've got the habit and the tendency of being upset by negative politics or by people's bad behavior, right? You've learned this as a good thing, and you get upset because you should be upset. That means you're a good person. But especially in our current political climate, it's like, oh my God, you're going to be unhappy all the time, right? But we can learn to change those associations with deliberateness. But the point I want to make is that if we're not aware that we're unhappy, then we essentially sort of just keep going until circumstances change and then things change, which makes us very vulnerable. Our happiness is thus determined by external forces, which is a very vulnerable way to be. Yeah. And then we say, okay, well, I've become aware that I'm unhappy. Now I say, well, that sucks that I have this tendency to just kind of be unhappy by stuff from external and I don't choose. I'm unhappy about being unhappy. I want to fix it. And that's what makes me fix it, because I'm unhappy about being unhappy, which means I want to fix it. But this will never work. Why? Because it becomes an infinite loop. The one feeds off the other. The more you try and the more you pay attention to things that you're unhappy about inside yourself, the more you say, well, that sucks and I don't like this. And then you're unhappy about being unhappy. And then you're unhappy about being unhappy, and it just goes forever. Like
Wow,
mirrors.
okay. It's a completely different topic, sir. It's a completely different topic.
Yeah, but it's still about inadvertency, Beena. It's still about inadvertency.
I know, so, but it needs a lot of details. Yes.
I know, but I want to just add one point. So when we are taking our daily routines and we are saying we are associating this, changing our routines, disrupting our routines, changing it, doing it differently, we are associating this with remembering to be aware. Okay, so I still my coffee. Oh yes, what am I doing? Oh yeah, all right. I'm remembering to be aware. Okay, what do I want to be aware of? I want to be aware of replacing what I don't want. So whatever it is that I was doing that was making me unhappy, I don't want to say, well, I'm going to fix it, because then I'm focusing on unhappiness and I get into that loop. Oh, I'm going to replace it with being happy. Oh yes. Oh yes. I want to choose to be happy. That's what I want to do. I want to develop the habit of choosing to be happy. Problem solved. Now I learn this habit of choosing to be happy rather than inadvertently reacting and responding and being unhappy. See? It's about replacement. So we want to make sure that when we are the things that we remember to be aware of that we want to change in ourselves, it's about remembering. Every time we have this technique, we remember to replace, not remember to fix, to replace. It's very important, Beena, to set this up in the beginning, that we want to associate our habit changing with also getting into the default to replace, not to fix. Yeah? Very important. Otherwise, we can train ourselves to remember and to be aware, but now I'm aware of, oh, I've got stuff to fix. No. Negative spiral, right? You have to get focused on replacement, not fixing. See what I mean, Beena? Why I'm focusing on it? Why it's so important?
I was not saying that it is not important. I know.
Oh,
it is.
well, not that it's a diversion, and yes, okay, it's a big topic, and
No,
it's another whole
a
new
big
topic.
topic. Yeah, it's a big topic. And then of course,
Yeah.
okay, it requires, already we are almost 1.5 hour. Okay, almost.
Yeah. Well, we started late, so 1.25 hour we started. So all good. This is an important topic. We can't be time constrained here. And that's it. I'm done there now. I just wanted to add that last point on. So to recap, we are taking this concept of disrupting routines that Juan introduced, and we are taking it all the way. And we are saying, how can I practically apply this? And how can I really make it worthwhile? Because disrupting my routine of how I stir my coffee, that doesn't make any difference really in the big scheme of things, right? It's not like I'm being actively hunted by anything that I know of. I might be hunted by some, entities that I'm not, but nonetheless, I can make a good argument that it doesn't matter. But we are going to associate disrupting our physical routines with disrupting our psychological routines. This is the key, the association, right? This is association management, or practicing association. So every time we disrupt the physical routine, I remember to be more aware. I remember to pay attention around me. I remember to pop out of my bubble of unawareness. Once I'm in that aware state, I say, okay, well, what do I want to be aware of? Oh, yes, I want to be aware of doing this. I want to be aware of doing this. And then we focus on the things that we are currently working on, our current project, whatever. Yes. And that's very important. And those projects need to be replacement projects. That's what I'm saying. Yeah? Not fixing project, replacement. That's it. That's just the sum total. Can you give a repeat back of this, Beena? Is how you understand it?
Oh no. It's a big one. It is going to be a big one. No, sorry.
No. In simple terms. In simple terms, just of what I just said now. Just that last part. We're going to use the physical routines, disrupting and changing and doing our physical routines differently. We are going to use this as a technique through association to assist us, to help us, to leverage us to be deliberately aware. And what are we going to do with that deliberate awareness? Replace. That's it. Besides just being aware, right, we're going to then replace. Because most of the time when we are aware, well, now what do I do with myself? We don't know what to do with our awareness. This is what Way-Of-Impeccability is all about. This is what Moreness-Culture is all about. It says, yes, what to do with your awareness. What you've been doing with your awareness before is chasing superiority, chasing status, chasing ego, chasing image, blah, blah. Doesn't really benefit you. But to replace that, yeah? Right?
Yeah.
So, but it's the replacement. So the whole technique, you disrupt your routines, you associate it with being deliberately aware. And when you're deliberately aware, Now, oh yes, I want to replace. Right? So it's really a memory technique, you could say. Well, it's an awareness technique, consciousness technique, but it's also a memory technique. We forget to be aware. We are going to use the technique of disrupting our physical routines to associate it with remembering to remember. Yeah?
Yes.
To remember to be aware. Yeah. It's ridiculously powerful stuff. It's so magically powerful. You know this, we've gone over this in Way of Impeccability, but it's a good refresher because habits always need to be refreshed, even when they're deliberate habits. That's the magic of habits. If you want to really use habits, use them and make them into deliberate habits, which is a whole other thing. They need to be refreshed because habits want to suck your awareness to be undeliberate. So you have to constantly refresh. Very important. Any questions, Beena? Any questions?
No.
No. I know I was kind of giving a seminar and a speech and a talk today, but this is so important. There's no other way to do this. And I mean, I'm sharing a very powerful technique that is complex. I said it in many, many different ways. I repeat it. When you listen to this, yes, I'm repeating because I'm coming at it in many different ways. To be clear, you have to basically, if you really want to use this, you have to go and do a repeat back, do a takeaway, figure it out. Okay, this is what he said. This is what he meant. This is how I understand it. And if it doesn't make sense to you internally, feel free to ask me, and we'll go over it. And okay, and say, okay, yes, oh, I see now. Okay, I get it. I'm quite happy to do that. It's not a problem. It's important. It's important. Get clarity on this. See the point of it. See the purpose of it. See the sense of it. See the logic of it. Right? The logic of it. In the end of the day, it's about energy management. It's about consciousness management. It is about joy management. It's about deliberateness. Yeah. That's what it's all about. It's all about being more happy in the end. Not just being more happy, but being more effective, being more functional, being more competent. Being more functional, being more effective, being more competent makes you more happy. The better you're able to use your energy, the more energy you have to be happy with. If you can take the same energy that you do stuff that you have to do and combine it to do stuff that at the same time you're also going to do stuff that you want to do, wow, Syl, you're a genius. You've turned my boring stuff into joy. Yes, in that sense, I am a genius. Yeah. I'll claim it there. It is genius. It is genius to do the same thing because of conceptualization and perspective shifting. The same thing becomes something else at the same time. It's incredible magic. Incredible magic. Yeah. We think magic is dead. There's no such thing as magic. Nonsense. Lots of magic in the world. Lots of magic. And in this, when it comes to perspective shifting, energy management, yeah, I'm a wizard. Yeah, I'll claim my wizardness. I do this magic all day long. Very helpful. Very, very helpful. All right. Any questions, Beena? I asked any questions, but I didn't hear any questions, so I don't know.
Can I say it again?
I'm saying, are there any questions, Beena?
No.
Do you have any questions?
All good. No, it's all good. It's all good.
Oh. It's powerful stuff. It's powerful stuff. We'll probably talk about it tomorrow again or next time we are live.
Yes.
You know, sometimes Mondays we have a lot to do, but we'll try to be here tomorrow. We'll try. We don't actually have a lot to do tomorrow.
Okay, so then we can continue. Yes.
Yeah. We will continue with the next episode too of Carlos. We never got there. I forget what it is now, but you know, we still on disrupting routines.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And we got to the end of the chapter last time, but I wanted to finish there.
Okay.
So this is a big deal. It's a very, very, very big deal. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. Okay. Bye for now.
Yes. Hope you enjoyed that, Beena.
Yes. But it
did.
was okay. As I was mentioning that it was actually too much to actually incorporate, right? Yes, that's why. Well, that's why I was asking you to not include that because it was
I know, but it had to be. It can't not be. All right.
No,
because
you can
let me just comment on what Beena said here.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I know, but the way in which I am sharing this as a life-changing technique is not the ideal way, because I'm trying to take something that is too much and share
Oh,
it in one go.
yes.
And that's not effective. If we
Yes.
did this via Way of Impeccability, you are
Yes.
going to be doing it one slide at a time, and you're going to
Yes.
be sharing your repeat back of each step. So therefore, we're all going to go step by step by step, but you're going to say, fine, I understand step one. And you're going to prove to yourself that you understand step one through the repeat
Exactly.
backs. And then you're going to also share your takeaways, because sometimes we get ideas, we get inspiration. Right? And now I've got a basis. And now I can go on to the next step, because I've already got the solid first step. And I'm building something. Now I am sharing the entire building with you all in one go, and you've got to absorb it all in one go. This is very difficult to do. Yeah, it's not how we go about things. We need to acquire a perspective, and then put it all together. It's very hard to do in this way. That's why listening to a lecture is the worst way of learning. Sorry,
Yes.
right? Which is essentially what I was doing. It is an ineffective way of learning. We think so, but I'm sharing. Somebody can go and do this and come back and ask and check and test and and do repeat backs. But again, that's you have to have that desire for the moreness to do so. Yeah. So the lava is joined us again. This is wonderful, the lava that you hear. I love it. It's very cool. And then also Ariana Bibaj. I don't know if I'm saying it correct, but it sounds like a nice way to say it. Bibaj. Bibha. Is that right, Beena? Well, how would you
I
say that? I don't know. Bibha. Bibaj. Bibaj. Maybe. Anyway,
Biba.
hello, Ariana. Just no
Biba.
J, just Biba. Ah, okay. Ariana Biba. Oh. And the lava. It's good to see you here, the lava. So the lava, if this is things that interest you personally, when you're helping Rasta with the videos, yeah, and maybe you're watching the video, watching the clips. If you have questions, email me, text me, ask. If this is something that really grabs you, I'm very happy to share more. Yeah, no problem. Anybody. The desire to learn is to truly learn. The desire to truly learn to change our consciousness, our awareness. It's very scarce. Very scarce. Only one that I know truly who has this as a really deep desire is Beena. Okay. Sorry, I went on a bit more. Important
No,
stuff.
it's okay.
Important stuff.
Yes.
Important
Oh,
stuff.
yes.
It all works together. It all works together. I just want, when it comes to learning and changing the self, be aware that the way we think to learn, the way we are taught to learn, our school style lectures, or no, terrible way. Not very good. All right, so we'll continue. We'll continue tomorrow, and we get
Yes.
to the next chapter, which is called "The Last Battle on Earth." Very interesting.
Okay. Okay. Bye for now.
All
Good
right,
night,
bye
everyone.
bye
See you guys
everybody. Bye
tomorrow.
bye everybody. Good night. Good night.